Dog and Pauly podcast on FingerLakes1.com, featuring Harold Webb Dog Weber and Paul Hellstrom.
Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, December 14th, 2011. This is the Dog H. Weber here on Finger Lakes 1. Pauly is off today, and he'll be off next week, enjoying some Christmas break. But it's good to have you along with us via the webcam, live webcam here on Finger Lakes 1, as well as hopefully you're listening to our voices via the podcast here on Finger Lakes 1. Joining me in the studio is the owner of FingerLakes1.com. Of course, the guy pulling all the switches and knobs is Jimmy Seneca.
Hey, Harold.
Jimmy, good to have you, and a longtime buddy of mine, Pete Same. Pete, welcome to the studios.
Harold, thanks for having me.
Well, Pete, of course...
and Jim.
Oh, yes. The name Pete Same is synonymous with politics, synonymous with the Seneca Falls Town Board, and, of course, a supervisor for Seneca County for many years. We're going to talk about several issues. We want to remind our listeners and our viewers that are checking us out this morning. Pete's going to stick around for the full hour if you have a question to ask of Pete. Since Pete's term will be ending as of December 31st, after a long time in the political world, send it in, keep it clean, and I'm sure Pete will respond in kind to your remarks.
Contact at fingerlakes1.com to send the email.
Okay. Contact at
fingerlakes1.com.
Contact at fingerlakes1.com is the email address. Well, Pete, you and myself and our families have known each other many, many, many years, but I guess anybody in the Seneca Falls and Finger Lakes region should know you and should know how many years you've been around. But let's go back and explain to our listeners a little bit about your background, where you were born, where you went to school, and when you got involved in the political world, so that can maybe start the discussion.
That goes back a ways, Harold.
I know it does.
Yeah.
Close to me.
I'm not afraid to admit that I'm 67 years old.
Okay.
I was born in Syracuse, came to Seneca Falls when my family moved here when I was 5 years old. Attended St. Patrick's School, Miners Academy, went away to school for a couple of years and married a local girl. Had a great family, and I've enjoyed this community. So my career, for the most part, was 32 years at ITT Gould's Pumps. Actually, it was Gould's Pumps, then ITT, and then on one infamous day, a bunch of us got shown the door, our middle management people.
Right.
I happened to be one of those people, but I look back at my career at Gould's and feel very comfortable that while I was there, I was a benefit to the company, and I did a lot of things that they helped me raise my family and support me, and I have no regrets. After I left the company at age 54, I said to my wife, I think maybe I could get a job if I wanted to travel to Syracuse or Rochester, but I said, I think maybe I'll take a shot at politics and run for a town supervisor. So I did. Jeanette Fife was the outgoing supervisor, a great person, a great supervisor for the town of Seneca Falls. I ran, was elected. And I've run 5 times and was successful, actually 6 times, the last time unsuccessful. But, I had 12 excellent years of interaction with the people of Seneca Falls, the employees of the town, and now a bunch of new employees coming to the town that have worked for the village. And it's been a pleasure for 12 years to give back to the community that I love. And, as much as I love my family, I love this community. So
well, I have a story about your dad who used to run the bank there at the corner there, the famous bank. And
State Bank.
State Bank. And I recall how things have changed. When I first came to Seneca Falls, I needed to borrow some money, and I was making like $60 a week at Gould's Pumps. And your dad took a chance and gave me a couple $1,000, and I think it was a third of what I made for 1 year. And he said, "You're not going anywhere, Weber. I'll know where to track you down for the money if you don't pay it back." And it was so easy to get money back then, Pete. You'd go in and talk to your dad, and if he trusted you and believed you were going to pay him back, he gave you the money within an hour. Today you've got to wait for phone calls because they go through all types of different spheres to get the approval. So I do remember your dad. He was always a great help for our family. And I know he loaned a lot of money to a lot of people, and that's a name that I always remember.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of those stories, Harold, over the years, and I still hear those stories, and I'm glad to hear them again today. Because, the people that my father interacted when he was in the banking business,
Sure.
A lot of those people have passed on, but there are still people that are thankful for what he did, and the business environment has changed tremendously over the last 20, 30 years. But certainly back then, it's nice to know that people appreciate
I always
what
did.
was done.
It was amazing. A shake of the hand. You fill out one form, and today, Jimmy, when you go borrow money from any banking institution, it's about 7 pages long and 14 credit checks, and usually the answer is no. But it's amazing how it's changed.
One thing we got going for us here in Seneca Falls Savings Bank is still kind of that similar type of community bank where it's not local.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a different world for sure.
It is different. By the way, Pete Same is with us here in the studio. If you have a question you'd like to ask us via email, please do it. Send it to us. And Jimmy, give them the address again. So
contact@fingerlakes1.com. That's the number one, just like the website.
Okay. Well, now, Pete, you, of course, been instrumental on the county level, and you obviously been instrumental on the Seneca Falls Town Board. I guess to start off the discussion with you would be, and we have a couple questions I'm going to pose to you in a minute. The word disillusionment. I guess a couple years ago, whenever that took place, I, of course, being a longtime Seneca Falls, and my wife Mary and our family, we heard about this dissolution. We're not really sure what it meant. And then we found out, well, it means if you vote for it, the village eventually goes away, and it's all under the auspices of the town. As a Seneca Falls guy, I guess I took the attitude, I could tell how I voted. I wasn't in favor of it. I thought we should remain a village of Seneca Falls. And lo and behold, the vote takes place. And, Pete, the outcome was, how many votes difference was it?
Not many, 80-some?
86 votes, or 85.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, it's etched in cement. And you and the town board and Diana Smith, the administration that runs the village, were now forced with the prospect of putting a to-do list, which I guess was longer than Abraham Lincoln's beard, to get things converted to the town versus the way it was, or the way it is currently until 2.5 weeks from now. I don't know if people blamed you based on the results of the latest election, losing to Don Earl. I'm not sure that's part of it. What is your feeling about dissolution? What were your feelings at the time it was up for a vote? I'm sure now that you're out of office in a period of 17 days, what were your feelings, and what are your feelings today about it? Do you think it was the right move, or I guess it's over with now, so it's like your response?
I'm not afraid to admit, number one, that I voted for dissolving the village.
Okay.
However, I did not take a position publicly during the whole process. I did participate in the process. It really, in my mind, there will be many benefits to our community going forward. Certainly, the majority of the residents will see a major reduction in their taxes. Unfortunately, there are a bunch of people in the town, which were outside the village, that will see an increase in their taxes. It's unfortunate, but the process that we've tried to implement and put in place once it was decided that we were going to dissolve the village is to be fair to everyone and to treat everyone equally. And that's been the goal of the town board and myself going forward. So everything that we've done it with the understanding we want to treat everyone equally. We've uncovered a few issues that needed to be resolved, and we're working towards those. But it's been a long process. Never in my life, 4 years ago when I was running for office, actually a little more than 4 years ago because the election season would have been over, did I envision the village dissolving. It was, I would have not run again this year. I did run only because I knew going in that this process is not done. There's too much to do. There's a lot more to do, and there's a lot of things hanging out there that need to be resolved and will take another year or two to make them happen. But we're prepared with the budget that's been prepared by the town board and approved to fund all of the services that we need to keep our community safe and to keep our community in the quality of life that we've expected over the years. And I think that's an accomplishment that I'm extremely proud of. I hope that the incoming board understands the thought process behind what we're trying to implement, and we'll look at it and say, let's give these things a chance to unfold. Let's see how the community accepts them before they, just through a campaign season, try to decide that things should be drastically different than what was planned over the last year and a half. I've been working on this almost 2 years now because I was part of the study. It's 2.5 years. I was part of the study committee. Although I wasn't a voting member, I did participate. And what it really boiled down to is the funds the town receives from the landfill. The village board fought very hard and probably justifiably on their part for us to help fund some of the projects that the village government needed to do within the village. Our town board took the position from the beginning that those funds were funds that we receive as a town and we share them equally with all of our residents. So we stood firm and did not agree to fund those types of projects. So when they went through the study process, they determined that there was a substantial opportunity for their constituency, which is the village residents, to save big dollars. And so they elected to roll the dice and put it to a vote. And like you say, it was a very slim margin, but it passed. And so we're in the final stages of this year, and I hope next year that a lot of this implementation going forward the people of the community will see the benefits that we're trying to produce, and they will understand that we are to be one community, and everyone should be treated equally. There is debt and there is remaining obligations that need to be taken care of, but once those things are resolved, our tax rate will be one rate that represents what it costs to run services for our streets, our public safety, all of the things, the recreation program, which we have in Seneca Falls, which is probably
paramount, phenomenal.
I can't even compare it to any surrounding area.
It's one of the best.
Yeah, and the staff at the town are outstanding people, and I hope that hope and pray that these people will be allowed to prove themselves to the new town board members, things will just go forward. It's been a great 12 years for me.
I guess you brought up a comment about the Seneca landfill. I don't know the people operating the landfill. I think I've met them at the Clarence a couple of times. They've certainly been in the news. They've been in the news associated with the town board and some of the decisions you've made and some of the pacts or some of the decisions that have been made for the landfill. I know some people in our listening audience and viewing audience look at the landfill as a negative. They look at it as a negative, and some people look at it as a positive. As I like to tell people, in 5,000 words or less, Pete, give me your view on the Seneca landfill as far as what it's done for the area. I know there's criticism both ways, but in my belief, they've done a lot of good things, and they're criticized a lot. So I guess it's back and forth.
Seneca Meadows was in existence before I was elected. Right. It'll be in existence next year and beyond. It's a business. It's operating in a zoned area. It is the largest landfill in New York State, and it does generate a lot of revenue for the town of Seneca Falls. And now that revenue will be shared equally with all of our residents. Not that it wasn't before, but it's going to be shared in a way that it provides the services necessary. And some of the frills that we were able to do before will somewhat be cut back. We've supported lots of organizations in the community. I think the premier organization that we supported is the Seneca Falls Library. It's a service that all residents have had the opportunity to benefit, and thanks to Senator Nozzolio and a prior town board that actually purchased the property that they're now located on, and the Seneca Falls Town Board over the last 12 years has supported that library and continues to support that library. So, those are just some of the things that I see we've been able to do, and we do that because of the revenues that we do receive from that landfill. And yes, it does create a lot more traffic. There's definitely odors at times from the landfill, but it's in a zoned area that was zoned way before myself, and they're operating a state-of-the-art business, I think it's a very well-run organization. So
good. I'm glad. We have some more areas to talk about. Pete Same is our guest for the full hour here on the Dog and Pauly podcast. For you Pauly fans, Paul Hellstrom He's taken off this week and next as we do the political side of it. We have invited Mayor Diana Smith and Connie Sowards, the village administrator, to join us, as we have with Pete coming in today. We want to give equal footing as Diana and her administration no longer will exist as the clock strikes midnight on December the 31st, as the village no longer. But let's go to a couple of questions that were emailed in. And again, Jimmy, you want to give them the address in case they want to ask a question?
Yeah, that's contact@fingerlakes1.com if you want to ask Pete a question.
Okay, so it's contact, C-O-N-T-A-C-T, @fingerlakes1.com. If you would like to email over a question, Pete's going to be with us for the full hour. This is your opportunity. Pete will deal with any questions. Keep it clean, obviously. But I guess it is no area is out of bounds. Pete will give you his opinion, and that's what we have him in for. Pete, this question comes in from Elaine Rossi. Peter, is it right for the outgoing town board to contract $1 million plus for a new town hall, a lame duck action? I think it would have been more appropriate to let the newly elected officials handle that matter sometime during 2012, 2013. Would you like to respond to that question or that concern?
I'd be happy to.
Go ahead.
Elaine, I hope you're listening. I've always considered you a great friend, right, and your family. But our decision to go forward with this project of reconstructing 10 Fall Street has been an ongoing process for almost 7 years. We had a fire. We've been renting space. We had plans to perhaps acquire another property jointly with the village. That didn't come through. We looked at opportunities to build a new facility, a joint facility with the town, with the village and town combined. The location wasn't acceptable to the village board. That was out on Overton Bridge Street at Fireman's Field. We also looked at the canal front on the south side of the canal to perhaps build a joint facility. And, you know, what happened is all through this course of time, we were working on a joint shared facility. Then this idea of dissolving village government came to play. And we basically said it's time to stop the process until the community decides what they want to do. Now, the community makes the decision that they want to dissolve village government. We now know our space needs. And granted, we could have made the decision last year to start this project, but we're paying rent for a facility now, St. Pat's, St. John Bosco School. It's a great location, but it's a huge facility, way bigger than we need. And you know, it costs us around $80,000 a year for that facility for space. It's all money that you know, we've been paying for a long time for rent. We rented the old Miners Academy, or the old Miners Library on Lower Fall Street. We made a decision earlier this year that it was time to move forward and reconstruct this building. It was well ahead of the election, and I know the people feel like we're pushing this issue through, but you know, the space is adequate. We've had it reviewed by an architect. The building is in good shape, and the project is not $1 million. It's the end result in the bids as they came in were $2,437,000. And our board agreed to proceed with the project, and we're now in the final stages of awarding those contracts to the successful bidders. And you know, we're going to have a building that has a design and that will fit in well in the community. Will be a building that will be around for 100 years into the future. It's a great location. It's central in the community, and you know, it just makes perfect sense to proceed with the project. And it wasn't that we were trying to force the issue. It's been in the planning stages for 7 years. We finally reached a decision where we know what we need. We know the employees we need. We don't need to grow the building. We do need to locate the court in the upper level, and put the administrative offices in the lower level. So it's a win situation for the community. And these funds are funds that have been reserved over the years. Has no impact on taxes. It was put in a tax stabilization reserve fund, not a building reserve fund, and there are $2.4 million in that fund right now today, and it will fund that project with very little coming out of any other reserve. So I think it's a great project for the community, and I hope that once this is done, everybody will appreciate what we've done. So.
there's not a day that goes by the last several weeks where I haven't seen a Greek revival design, the design of the building, and additional expenditures for this design that the board seemed to want to go with, and some people were saying we don't need this design. Can you touch briefly on this design factor about, we kept reading about this fandangle design that some people said it was necessary, and it was overusing the taxpayer dollars, and we could have done it cheaper. Would you like to comment on the design of the building?
Well, there's no question that the design change is probably added to the project cost to the tune of about maybe $125,000 to $30,000. It's an exterior look only. It was brought to us by a local architect in Seneca Falls. We had a traditional style building that would have looked fine in the area, but he did come forward with and donated his time to ask the town board if they would consider this type of design, and it was looked at. It was put on a sketch. Our town board approved it. We went back and had to spend additional dollars with the architects to change the design, and we've invested to date close to $170,000 just to get to the point where we could go out for bid. So, certainly proceeding with this project is the right thing to do. And we're hoping that, in June or July of next year, we'll have a great-looking facility and a great location for all of our residents to visit.
So June or July of this upcoming summer?
Yeah.
Yes.
By the way, if you have a question for Pete Same, he's our guest for the full hour here on the Dog and Pauly podcast. I'm Harold Weber. Pauly is off today. We're with Jimmy Senecropi. Pete's our special guest.
Hey, Harold, what about some of the fine sponsors of this show?
Oh,
Usually you've mentioned them 80 times
You know
by
what?
now.
I got to take time out and mention them. You're right, Jim, because if we don't mention our sponsors, they go bye-bye. Hey, you're right, Jim. Well, it's a good time for a break here. Our show is brought to you by our friends up at the Deluxe Restaurant, Charlie Lee, who no doubt is quite happy. Well, he was happy until the Mets traded Jose Reyes. Jose Reyes went for $100 and some million with team down there in Florida. But the Deluxe is a great restaurant. Myself and Mary frequent it quite a bit. They're open every day except Mondays. Charlie, big sports fan, big Mets fan, big Giant fan. And, of course, every night they have a special, and you can be assured Paul Hellstrom, who works this show with me, he's still the pre-cook, Pete. He's still been doing it for 20-some years. Back in the old days of the Franklin, you and me remember.
Yep.
But now old Paulie gets there at 4 o'clock in the morning. He starts prepping biscuits and chicken and does it all. So roast turkey dinners, he has them on Wednesday nights. As a matter of fact, that's tonight's special, roast turkey dinner. So the Deluxe Restaurant, unlike any other restaurant around, you're very reasonable, great service. Charlie and his staff always greet you with a smile. I would recommend on the weekends, definitely call up and get a reservation. Their number up there in Geneva, 789-1171. My other good sponsor is Dickie Marshall. Of course, Pete knows Dickie from way back when as well. Dickie, of course, Marshall's Auto Sales here around Routes 5 and 20 in Seneca Falls. Always got some nice used cars out in his lot. And it's a good purchase if you're looking for a car for your wife or for yourself or for a college student that lives with you, obviously. And if you would like to talk to Dickie about buying one of those used cars, sometimes there's 5 or 6. I notice there's maybe 2 or 3 right now, so you must have sold a couple of them, which is not unusual. He puts them in tip-top shape. And one thing about Dick Marshall, I go back to the days of Marino's Pool Hall when I first met Dick, and we've been friends a long, long time. Dick's been in Seneca Falls area for over 40 years. 4 decades, Dick Marshall, and he's not going anywhere. So the beauty about buying a car from Dick, if there's a problem with the car, he's going to make it good. He's got his lead service technician, Tommy Thompson, on board to help out with any issues. And a buddy of mine, Scott Trickler, runs the Lizard's Tailgater Lounge up in Waterloo. Of course, up in Waterloo, namely at 40 Church Street. Scott's a great sponsor of ours. He's been with us several months. This coming weekend, he's got some karaoke with videos both nights, and he's got $1 hour for the ladies. That's up at Lizard's Tailgater Lounge. Usually I try to stop over once or twice during the week and have a cold beer and see Scott and some of his clientele. And they're unlike any other clientele. They really have a good time up there at Lizard's. And I'm aging myself. I remember what used to be Vetetta's, an Italian restaurant up there that we frequented years ago. And by the way, Scott wants to remind you, get ready for a rockin' New Year's Eve at Lizard's. Appetizers, hats, noisemakers, champagne at midnight, DJ, karaoke, and he gives free cab rides home, Pete, which I like. So if you got a few many drinks in you, you just turn to the bartender and he'll call a cab.
Sweet.
At no expense to you. So I like that. So our sponsors, Lizards, Dickie Marshall, and of course our friends from the Deluxe Restaurant. We're talking with Pete Same, longtime friend of yours truly. He has agreed to come in and spend an hour with us, talk about what's going on. Of course, he had been defeated by Don Earl in his most recent election. So I'm thinking that your honeydew list will increase by Ruth and company. As of January 1st, you'll have a lot more things to do around the house, Pete.
Well, yeah, there's no question about that. There's lots that needs to be done, and I'm not so sure I'm going to get them all done. But I'm sure, it's like life. One door closes, another one opens, and
that's right.
That's happened to me a couple of times, and now the door's open again. I'm not sure what the future holds for me, but I'm looking forward to the future.
Well, Pete, this question came in with no name attached to it, but we're going to ask it anyways. Why are you making so many? It's obviously pointed to you. Why are you, which of course you realize there's a board, not just you, why are you making so many important decisions at the end of your term instead of allowing the incoming board to make them as the voters obviously intended?
I'm not so sure that we're making decisions that we shouldn't be making.
Right.
These are decisions that have been ongoing.
Sure.
We're at a point in time where there are many things that need to be done just at year end because we've established tax rates, we've established obligations that on certain residents. Village has a set of obligations. The town outside has a set of obligations that are required. So, all of the actions I think we're doing are appropriate based on the position we're in. I think the biggest issue, and I'll put it right out, is the town police department. Mm-hmm. It's certainly been contentious all the way through the process. It was a problem during the study. It was an issue that people say that they were voting when they voted to dissolve. They were voting to get rid of the townwide police department. Right. I don't believe that, or the village police department. I don't believe that for a minute.
Right.
Our community needs police protection, and we took the time to look at the costs associated with a townwide force and protection that could be supplied by the sheriff's department should we not establish a town police force. And it's definitely more expensive to fund our own force, not significantly more expensive, but it's more expensive to the tune of about $75,000 to $100,000. We need to give this a chance. We have great protection. Our community needs protection, and either you pay for it and control your own police department, or you contract it out and still pay for it. So the impact on taxes is minimal. We cannot run a community without police protection, and so, those are just some of the issues that we've done and faced. On January 29th, we have to appoint all of these new employees coming over to the town. And, it's a substantial amount, including the police officers, the street departments. Anybody that may come to work on January 1 for the town of Seneca Falls needs to be appointed by the town. And we're doing that on the 29th at our year-end closed meeting, which is at 7 p.m. And I would invite the general public to please come and go through the actions that we're taking and listen, ask questions if you like. But I think what we're doing is we're doing what's appropriate as a town board, and it's not me. It's what we, the five of us, believe needs to be done. So.
Well, speaking of the police, there was a question asked of me to ask you, and they were concerned about it. I know you and the board just recently appointed acting police chief Stuart Peenstra, I believe that's the way you pronounce his name, as the acting chief, and of course it hinges on civil service exam information and so forth. Right. And the town board, with you on obviously leading the effort, I assume, indicated or voted to allow Stuart to live outside of Seneca County. A few people have come up to me criticizing that decision, saying that they are really upset the fact that you would allow a police chief, a potential full-time police chief, to live outside of Seneca County in the town of Seneca Falls. Respond to the criticism of people saying that, and have you heard it before, and what was the thinking of allowing them to live not here in the town of Seneca Falls?
Certainly residency is an important issue for certain positions, and certainly we would love to say that the chief of police lives in Seneca Falls. We went through the process of interviewing 4 individuals, the 4 sergeants working in the current town police force. We made a decision some time ago that we would promote from within. We thought we had well-qualified candidates.
Sure.
And we went through the interview process with those 4 individuals. And, what came out of that process was the realization. By the way, we invited into our meetings and interviews the newly elected Don Earl and Emil Bovey to participate in those interviews. And they did. The consensus of the group was that we should offer the job to Stu. He was the most qualified person. We felt he was the person that could take this town force into the year and do the things necessary to keep us protected and to allow the people within the department to feel secure. There's been kind of a breakdown in the department. Fred Capozzi, who has done a great job over the years as our chief of police, elected to take retirement. He did not want to come over and help with the transition. It was offered to him. He elected to step aside. So we had to make an appointment, and Stu was the best choice. And he does live in Cayuga County. Whether we, at the time, we actually have introduced a local law that will be acted upon on the 29th that allows residency for anyone within the townwide police force, because town law says you have to live in the county in which the force is in Seneca Falls is in Seneca County. We elected to introduce this local law that we would hopefully approve on the 29th that would allow residency outside of the community, outside of the county. And that was done, number one, to make sure we had the base of people to man our force. Stu at the time, you know, even if he wasn't in consideration for a police chief, we felt he was an important asset to our force. And therefore, we needed to introduce this local law. And so that's our intent. We hope on the 29th it gets approved. And that takes out of question whether or not he lives here or not. But you know, hopefully in the future, as this force continues to develop and to protect our community, maybe Stu will look at possibly moving to Seneca Falls. But right now, it's not a requirement.
Okay, good. It's excellent. You're listening to the Dog and Pauly Show here on FingerLakes1.com. Of course, Pete Same is our guest, and if you would like to ask Pete a question, we're going to be around for another 25 or 30 minutes here on the program. You can contact via the email, and that, of course, your email address is contact@fingerlakes1.com. That's contact@fingerlakes1.com. This is your opportunity to ask Peter regarding some information. If you would like to ask a question, and he's here for the full hour. Well, Pete, certainly one area that I know you and me have touched on over the years is the Cayuga Indian Nation, and that's been a topic that you've had to deal with on a county level, and you continually, obviously, have been involved. You've had several, I'm going to say, several roles involving the county's stance. I understand now there is a hot topic about potentially the Kliansky scrap iron regarding their wish, their desire to opening up a manufacturing facility. I grew up on Spring Street, right down the street. That's where I lost my right eye back on Kliansky Hill in 1952, for you trivia buffs. But Kliansky scrap iron and metal is the forefront of discussion relative to the fact that they have made a desire to someday opening up a manufacturing to make cigarettes, their own brands. Now, what we understand is it's going back and forth. I've been reading a lot of information regarding possible contamination of that site. I know you're on the town side of it, and certainly the county side, Pete, you have been. Did someone drop the ball in your judgment? Is the village responsible, and we can talk to Diana next week about it as well, is that a drop of the ball, or did we not react quick enough years ago, maybe years ago, to another administration maybe, that could have changed the zoning of that area?
Well, there's no question.
Is that a drop ball in our opinion?
Definitely.
Okay.
You know, that property was never rezoned. It really is a residential area, but it after 12 months of non-use, according to town code law or village code, they should have taken that property back to its original zoning, which was residential. Because that was not done when they came to Seneca Falls, because at that point our zoning code enforcement officer, Steve Turkett, was responsible for both village and town. That was one of the functions that we brought together at the town level. They applied for a permit to do some work on the building, and you know, there was no reason not to grant that permit. There was nothing that Steve could do legally to stop that process. It was something that they did. And so they went ahead and did repairs to the building. They were calling it a storage facility. Any manufacturing that would take place at that facility needs to be approved by the ATF, I think it is, or a wing of the ATF that actually gives them a permit to manufacture tobacco products. That, to my knowledge, has not been issued. Our county attorney, Frank Fisher, was asked to investigate that process, and at this point, not. As far as the property itself, we all know what it was.
Sure.
We, through the county, did contact the DEC and asked if there was any way that they could investigate that property as far as contamination. They researched their records and found no reason to enter that property to indicate that there was contamination. There was nothing in the past from any of their records indicating there were problems at that site. They cannot, at a whim, enter a parcel and say, we want to inspect this property to see if there's an issue. So they basically said there's nothing that they can do about that parcel. And, you know, so they are the one wing of state government that has the authority to look at a parcel and determine if there's a problem. And I know Brad Jones, God love him, he's a great person. He's worked very hard trying to fight this battle. He's taken positions and stances that need to be taken.
Right.
And, you know, unfortunately, government cannot do things that are not appropriate. We cannot treat one person different than another person. We have to follow the laws and the codes, and that's what we've done. And at this point, unfortunately, the ball was dropped years ago, and the property is still a commercial zoned area.
Well, maybe you can share this information. Maybe you can comment. Maybe you can't. I know I've made presentations in front of you and the board on the Indian issue since I worked there part-time when I was with ITT, leaving after my tenure. And
more than mine, Harold.
Yeah, a little bit more, but 44 and a half years, but who's keeping track?
Yeah, that's 12 more.
That's 12 more. I talked about the fact that we needed to take some action against the Cayuga Nation because I took the view, even though I was a smoker, and I took the view that it wasn't fair for them to not charge tax relative to Jimmy buying a pack of cigarettes for $10 versus going down there and paying $5. And I addressed the board. As you know, you were in attendance on a couple occasions. Finally, we went through the tedious task of going through the court process. You were at many of the court hearings with me. And we would get win after win, and then we would lose a few, then we'd win a few. Then finally, Pete, the momentum swung in favor of the county. We would win, win, win. And it was determined that the Cayuga Indian Nation was put on notice. They no longer could sell non-Indian cigarettes anymore without applying the tax. So everybody was jumping up and down. So what do the Indians do? They stopped bringing in the major brands, the Parliaments, the Marlboros. Having worked at that store, I can assure you those are the most popular brands. So it's obvious to me you go by there on a Saturday, you could not find a spot in that parking lot on any Saturday, Jim. But now you go down there on a Saturday afternoon at noon and it's 4 cars there. The bottom line is they're selling their own brand, the Cayuga brand. The place down near the cemetery on Bayard Street is selling their brands. My point is, do you know, is the county taking any action to expand the ruling by the judges to determine all cigarette brands you got to charge tax? Because it seems like they're using the escape clause of selling their own brands. Well, I haven't heard.
Yeah, I really think that's in the hands of the state.
Okay.
The governor has his first governor in history to enforce the law.
Yes.
And that took those name brand cigarettes out of their shops. The issue of their manufactured cigarettes, it should be still the same process.
Right.
They should be collecting the tax from those suppliers. Now they have to get to the source of those suppliers, which I don't know whether they're in New York State or outside of New York State.
Gotcha.
So it should be a tax collected for those cigarettes being sold, which would in turn make the competitive field more open to all retailers to sell cigarettes. If people choose to smoke, they pay the same price. We tax the hell out of them, and there's no question about it. And for those people that do smoke, I feel sorry for them, but the reality is we need to put everyone on the same playing field, and hopefully the state of New York will do that soon.
Okay, Pete Same is with us, and he's going to be with us for another 20 minutes. Jimmy, you have a question of Pete?
Yeah, and full disclosure, your sons, Timmy and Bren, are two of my best friends, and I've known Carl and Pete, your other sons, forever. And I voted for you in the recent election. And we worked together on the Economic Development Committee for Seneca Falls in the past, which I was chairman. And we worked together on the town and village website, senecafalls.com, over the last 12 years. My business is now almost 12 years old, so I guess it's all taken place here in Seneca Falls under your, I don't want to say reign, but, under your service period.
Sure.
And again, to get to the heart of my question, I voted for you for two reasons. One, having worked with you, I feel you're reasonable. I always felt that you took a reasonable approach to every issue. And of course, there is the fact that I'm friends with your family is another obvious reason why I voted for you. But it wasn't necessarily a vote against Don Earl. I don't know Don that well, but I also, from what I can tell, seems to be a reasonable guy. But the main reason politically I think that I voted for you was because this issue of consolidation is so complicated. So now that we're making a change, I wouldn't envy being in Don Earl's shoes right now. What advice do you have for Don Earl in regards to continuing to execute on this consolidation?
Well, again, I don't know Don Earl that well. I've met him. I've spoken to him. I've given him some information and some advice. I'm sure there's lots more that I can tell him and would be happy to tell him. But he's walking into a whole bunch of stuff that is going to be proven as we go into 2012. And I just hope he goes in with an open mind and open eyes and listens to the people that are now members of the town staff. Certainly, he believes he's listening to the voters. He got elected. I didn't. I was the subject, I think, of a perfect storm. Mm-hmm. A good friend of mine, Augie Sinacropi, said to me in an email thanking me for my service that I was a subject of a perfect storm, and I'm not sour grapes over this thing. The village dissolved. We tried to implement the services the best way we could. It has implications on taxes. The community, based on the vote for dissolving, you can tell there's a good number of people that didn't want to dissolve. There's a little bit more that wanted to dissolve. The people in the town outside are not necessarily happy with the fact that they have had 9 years of no town tax, and now in 2012 they're going to have a tax, which is $2.35. So
even the issue of the dissolution is so complicated. Like we say, okay, it was a close vote. This many were for, this many were against. But the reasons why, from my perspective, multiple layers of government for such a small area inherently seem like it would be inefficient or unnecessary. So, but I was a supporter of the police department with a 6-year-old daughter growing up. And anybody who has needed the police department, whether it be an emergency call to 911, they're there 10 minutes before the ambulance. They're always first on the scene. So there is a price we pay for that service, but many people feel that it's well worth it. So I guess to get to my point, that the whole consolidation issue was a weird vote because so everybody was coming at it with different interests, whereas there wasn't just a simple. Of course, you got to think of it this way. This is the obvious way. There were so many things into play, so that's why it was kind of interesting to see how that vote played out. Well, it definitely was. I mean, our town board has tried from the beginning, once the vote was in, to follow the plan that was developed by the village board. Now, did we meet it completely? No, but we've done everything we thought we needed to do to treat everyone fairly. In the end, I said it before, I'll say it again, we want one community that all people are treated as equally as they possibly can. And I hope that everybody will see the benefits of the services that are provided. And, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, I'm still going to be here, I hope, and I hope that our families will still be here, and I hope that they will appreciate
what Seneca Falls offers them. It's a great place to live. Our quality of life is great, and it's second to none as far as I'm concerned. So,
well, I think switching back to a topic, you're listening to Dog and Pauly Show. We got about 15 minutes to go, so if you'd like to email a quick question to Peter Same, he's been with us for the full hour. We appreciate him taking time out of his schedule. So it's contact@fingerlakes1.com. Contact@fingerlakes1.com. If you would like to email in and ask a question to Peter, please do so. Peter, you mentioned part of the town offering, which I'm going to give full disclosure. I've been friends with Jim Spina forever. His wife's good friends with my wife, Mary. I think you've got a jewel in the rough here. I think a lot of people don't understand and appreciate the recreational complex that the town has put together to afford kids, young adults, seniors, trips to different destinations, the phenomenal recreation programs that the town has offered, that has been open to the town and village residents of Seneca Falls and Seneca County. And I just want to say plaudits to Jim and his staff, because I think you really touched on a jewel in the rough. I think it's one of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, there's no question. Jim and his staff have done an excellent job. They've worked very hard at offering programs for, as you say, everybody.
Everybody.
From young kids to seniors.
Exactly.
I think that's another part of our quality of life that I hope never changes. Certainly, the cost associated with all those programs has to be under control. And Jim has done a great job. He's presented a budget that has been a little bit less than the prior year. It's just a great program. You can talk about Jim. I can talk about Don Wood, our highway superintendent, who has done a tremendous job for the town, and now will be responsible for not only the town outside but the village inside. And he has a plan going forward that is going to cut costs and supply the service that's needed for our roads and streets. And he's a dedicated employee. He's been around a long time. And, I hope that the people will see what he's trying to accomplish and understand that it's going to benefit everyone. So,
well, switching from recreation, of course, during the summer, it looked like Ollie versus Frazier between you and Diana Smith on a couple of topics that were in the news on a daily basis. It was covered by the Times. It seemed like it was Ollie versus Frazier, but tell us the real truth regarding I think one of the issues that stuck in a lot of people's minds, since I live up from the Village Hall, the fact that they were considering not turning over the village offices to the town, which to me didn't make any sense why you wouldn't give it to the town. But it seemed like you and her were going back and forth trying to outfox each other or play brinkmanship. Could you explain the relationship at that time, Pete? It seemed like there was some disharmony between the two of you. Is that something because of of trying to get to the same objective, maybe doing it differently?
I have every bit of respect for Diana, the village board, Connie Sowers. I mean, I think they were trying to do what they felt was right. We were at a point in the process where we needed to put together this budget, which is now adopted, and we continually asked them to agree to transfer the assets. They were holding on, and for whatever reason, I mean, I could point my finger at 1,000 reasons, but they did make the decision at the right time so that we could plan accordingly. The key issue was certainly 60 State Street, which is the home of the police department and current village administration. So we needed that facility for our police protection. We needed that facility because we were planning to reconstruct 10 Fall Street, which had no room for a police department. And we thought it was the perfect opportunity to continue with the police department from that facility and also reconstruct the building. So I think it was a little contentious, but I think in the end they realized that it was the right thing to do, and they made the right decision, and I'm really glad. I think the village board should be commended for all the work that they've done, not this board but prior boards. They did what they thought was right for the village residents, and and all the time we've been trying to do what's right for all of our residents. So our concern was everyone, their concern was the village, and they did their job.
I think we have a question coming in.
Great.
We have a question here, Pete, and this is one that I guess relates to me and Finger Lakes One. It's an anonymous email, and the question is, do you think the anonymous forums, those being the fingerlakes1.com community forums, do you think the anonymous forums affected the outcome of the election?
Jim, don't take this wrong. Yes. I was criticized extensensively by a couple of individuals. I think I know who they are, but I'm not the type of person that, I accept defeat, but some of the things that were said and the way it was said took everything out of context, and I do believe that people do read the forum, and I just hope that these people that go under these names of Magua and Seneca Mom, I would hope that they would come to me and face to face say something so I could respond to them directly, and I know who these people. I hope I don't say I know who they are. I think I know who they are, but if they would have the guts to look me in the face and not do it this way. It's a difficult thing, and I never participated. I never responded to any of those things, and I don't know. I think it's great to have the forum. It's great to have anonymous comments, but it was definitely, I think, a factor in this election.
Yeah, my perspective on that is, we have the forums, and I would say that 90% of the conversation on there is either productive or non-consequential. It's just it's banter.
Talk.
Kind of like you would hear in the coffee shop, I suppose. But whenever election season rolls around, everything changes. And we have considered not allowing political discussion on there, but that seems to eliminate a lot of what can be good about the forums. Now, I'd like to think that doesn't influence the elections, because I believe that when someone uses an anonymous channel to consistently promote the same thing over and over again, that people can kind of smell a rat, or at least smell an agenda and take it for what it is. But it is, a good question, how many people would have changed their votes because, or maybe how many people would have been motivated to vote because that maybe may not have even voted. I don't know. And then I also laugh sometimes because a lot of people, I know for a fact that a lot of people that contribute to those discussions don't even vote,
Yeah. They just want to be heard.
Yeah, it's a comical because, the question is a good question, and I think it did affect the election. But, 4 years ago when I ran for office, 400 more people voted for the position of town supervisor. 400 more people than this election. And of all time in the history of Seneca Falls, you would have thought that this community would have come out in force to vote.
Right.
It was a terrible turnout. I was defeated by over 200 votes, but it's too bad that the community doesn't do. I guess people should exercise that authority, that they have that power, they have to vote. And,
especially at the local level. I mean, it's one thing I can see you being apathetic about who you're going to vote for president.
Right.
But when you're talking about a town election in a community of under 10,000 people, your vote has a huge impact.
Yeah. So it is what it is. I've accepted it. I'm moving on. I'm very proud of what's happened over the last 12 years, and I hope that this community and the future town boards will continue to support the people and to provide the services that they need. So
I guess I'm one of the few that never get too excited about these ads on television relative local, and you and me go back a long time, Peter. I never really took the attitude that I believe in the hogwash, ripping somebody apart on a forum. I've always looked at a candidate, if I think the person has done a good job, has tried to do a good job, maybe met some opposition along the way, then I'll make my decision when I'm behind the curtain or, whatever. And I've always not really got caught up in all the slamming and the trash talking, because to me,
You
that's
never
theater.
trash talk.
Oh yeah, sports-wise, I do a lot of that on the sports
Wants to
side.
fire Jim Boeheim.
Yeah, well, you know, hey, you
Doug
know.
Marone.
Yeah, I know. Did I read that one? Oh, I did read that one from Bob Heisen earlier, right? Bob Heisen had the great line today, why you're coming on to do an interview with somebody who wants Jim Boeheim fired, like by letter. So Pete and me go back too many years.
Yeah.
Bob, he's got to get some jobs out there landscaping. He's got too much free time on his
Definitely. You know, Syracuse University, Jim Boeheim are icons. You know,
Yeah.
my daughter,
Yep.
not my daughter, my daughter's daughter, my granddaughter is first year at Syracuse University.
Nice.
She's in the civil engineering program there, and you know, I look forward to watching those games on TV.
Yep.
All their games, football, basketball. I hope that. I know that you've made a comment, Harold, but I
okay.
support Jim. I support
That's great.
SU basketball.
That's what's beautiful.
And so does Jim. Go Orange.
You know what? That's what's beautiful about America. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, our show's been brought to you this morning, and we got a couple of things to talk to Peter about before we wrap this baby up. And by the way, we're going to be up in Geneva later on today for another show. So if you're in Geneva area, stop by and see myself and Jimmy. We'll be up there around 3:30 at the Geneva Recreation Complex. We'll interview. I'll have the opportunity to interview on the ice Clark Mockley, the head hockey coach of the Geneva Waterloo High School hockey team. And I'm sure a couple of assistant coaches will be there as well. So that'll be this afternoon. We'll be in Geneva, myself and Jim. So stop by if you're in Geneva to say hello to us. By the way, our show is brought to you, as it is every week, by Lizard's Tailgater Lounge, my friend Scott Trickler. Also Marshall's Auto Sales on Routes 5 and 20 in Geneva. And our buddy up there at Deluxe Restaurant, my man Charlie Lee and his great staff. We thank them for their continued support. Well, Peter, I know you're a humble kind of a guy, but I noticed that you were awarded a nice plaque from the folks there. And I just wanted to read it for our listeners and our viewers, if you don't mind.
Not at all,
Okay.
Harold. I'm very proud of the fact that the employees presented this to me yesterday.
They gave this to you, and I'm going to read it in grateful appreciation of Peter W. Same for 12 years of service as town supervisor. Throughout history, there have been those individuals who, having succeeded in business and life, feel compelled to give back to their communities. You, sir, are one such individual, and both the town of Seneca Falls and Seneca County have benefited greatly from your selfless service. Thank you from the town of Seneca Falls employees, dated December 31st, 2011. And that's not all.
Yes.
So you got a nice watch, too.
Yeah, for anybody that might want to see it, they did present me with a great pocket watch. Came from Robinette's.
Very nice.
It's beautiful. I'll cherish this, and I'll cherish the memories that I have for the last 12 years. I can't say enough about the town employees. They're great people. They work hard for all of us, and I hope that they'll be able to continue to do what they're doing. And you know, it was pretty choking yesterday when
I bet.
when they surprised me. I did not expect it. I was told I had a meeting. I came to a meeting, and it turned out to be the employees presenting me with this plaque and this watch and cake. So it was great, and I will stay close to those people. They're good friends.
Well, you know, I must say that our families go back a long time. I go back a long time with you and your sons, etc. And you know, I know you know you're in the center of the fishbowl, and it's easy to take shots and it's easy to criticize. I should know that. But I think you've responded well. I think your heart's been in helping out the various town and the county in your roles. And I think, you know, time has come. The electorate has decided to bring someone else in. I know you wish Don Earl the best of luck, and so does myself and Jimmy, because he's got some tough shoes to fill, and I know that you'll be watching. And I guess the question before we wrap up this interview, Pete, do you have plans in a few years to go back into politics? I guess that's the question.
No, you know, if I went into politics, it certainly would be anything at the town board level. Right. I don't really think so. I took all of my signs. I took all of, you know, they're gone. In 4 years, I'll be 71 years old, and I really need to enjoy the rest of my life and my family, and I'm looking forward to doing that. And I think I've done a good service to the community, and now it's time for me to step aside and let other people take over. And I, you know, as you said before, I wish Don, Earl, Emil Bovey, and the current sitting other 3 town board members great success. And I'll be watching, but I think better yet, the entire community will be watching. So I hope that things go very well.
Jimmy, anything finally for Pete?
Yeah, just one general question about politics, because it's been especially for, I think, my generation, who's now getting to the point where, you know, me and my peers would be getting involved in government. Why, on a local level, and it doesn't matter if it's here at Seneca Falls or in Penn Yan or in Geneva, I see it everywhere. Why all the strife, in your opinion? Why is there so much strife? We're all neighbors. We have an election. We'll let the people do the job. But there's strife coming at these various boards from the community. There's strife within the boards. I mean, what's your impression of the negative side that's of local politics?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
You know, I think any time you reach into somebody's pocket and take money out, it's difficult, especially with the economy today. There's a lot of people that are living on fixed incomes, that have are unemployed. You know, at the county level, it's a difficult process. At the town level and at village boards, it's difficult. I don't have a good answer. It's we're elected to do the best we can and to provide services the best way we can. And at the same time, we have to remember that there are people working for government that are the greatest asset we have. Mm-hmm. That's what they do every day. We had a meeting last night at the county board, and after a long debate, we finally agreed to give employees a raise. Not much, because we increased their insurance contribution. So, but you know, I just hope that it's a weighing, balancing of the scales when you start to look at when you're in public service and you provide services to the residents. There's an expense associated with that, and you just need to be thankful of that, thoughtful of that, and also to be aware that the people that are providing those services are dedicated, hardworking people, and the only way you reward those people is to give them a raise now and then. And you know, you can pat them on the back all you want and thank them for what they do, but certainly when you change their lifestyle by giving them some more money, it helps them, helps the community, and it's the way, the American way, you know.
Yep.
So. Well, I must finish with one comment, Pete. I noticed that you were disappointed, and I'm sure your other board members as well, recently when many organizations, as they do every year, came in looking for contributions to their cause, and you were unable to give them either their total amount request, that you chopped a few down, and you couldn't supply money to a few organizations because of what you're facing because of the economy. That has to be tough for you, because I'm sure you want to give money to worthwhile causes that you have, but I guess it's going to be an ongoing consideration, right? Because there's just so much money to hand out, right?
Right.
I mean, it's just so much in the coffers.
When you had no town tax and you had funds available and you could support organizations that benefit the community and the residents of the community, we were able to do that.
Sure.
Certainly a lot of the events that take place, It's a Wonderful Life, St. Anthony's Festival, these are great opportunities for our community to celebrate events, and hopefully the town board in the future will be able to support those things. Certainly the library is most important. You know, it's just a question of, when you have a town tax, there's only so much you can do.
Right.
And so we cut back tremendously on what was we were able to contribute to organizations for the benefit of our community. And you know, we did that. I don't know what future boards will do. And you know, there are things that we need to continue to support, and I hope we do. So it's up to future boards. So.
Well, Pete, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule with a couple of weeks to go in your term. Thanks for coming in, and continued success and happy holidays to your family.
Harold, it's great to sit here and talk with you, and Jim. Weber on Sports. That was a long time ago too.
Oh, baby, Jimmy used to mow the grass, mow the greens.
Golf course, listening to
That's right. We had some good times.
But I'm glad you're still involved in keeping the community up to date on what's going on. And your show's great.
Just a thought, Pete might make a good guest host for the days that Paul can't come in every now and then.
That's right.
Pete, so
I'll give you a call.
Bring me back anytime. I'd be happy to. I hope more people would think about this cast, and then maybe come up with some more questions. I'd be happy to answer.
No problem. Pete, thanks an awful lot.
Thanks, Harold.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pete Sames with us for the hour. I hope you had a chance to check us out, and thank you for the folks that took time out to send an email in for some questions. And if you forgot, well, you had your shot. Next week, hopefully, we'll have Diana Smith and Connie Sowards, the administrator and the mayor of the Village of Seneca Falls. That'll be next week. Hopefully they will appear on the program to hear what they have in mind and how they are going to count down to non-existence, obviously, as December 31st rolls pretty quickly from today, like 17 days away. So thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, Peter. And
Thanks,
you have been
Pete.
checking out the Dog and Pauly podcast here on Finger Lakes One. And again, a reminder, we have a special Weber on Sports Express show as we head to Geneva this afternoon to talk to the Geneva hockey coach, Clark Moxley and company. We'll be up in Geneva around 3:30 for that special broadcast. If you're up in Geneva, stop by and say hello. Until next week, everybody, you've been listening to the Dog and Pauly podcast with Peter Same, our special guest for the full hour. Take care.